All right, guys, super excited for this interview I have today with Andrew from Canine Connection. Andrew and I have been working for a little bit over a month together, and his business is rapidly growing. So I'm super excited to have him on today to share a little bit about who he is as a dog trainer and where he plans on taking his company. So, dude, why don't you just kick it off and tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay, sounds good. I basically I've been working with dogs now for about 8 years. I started literally just by training my own dog. We were just out in the park. We were just messing about, working on some recalls and some sit stays and down stays. And a guy from my neighborhood is walking by, and he kind of walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, you seem like you know what you're doing. Would you mind giving me some tips for my own dog?" And I was like, I guess. I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not like a professional or anything.
Right.
And so I'm like, yeah, whatever. I can swing by your house later today. So I go to his house and we chat about his dog. He has a gorgeous chocolate lab, and we're chatting about crate training. We're talking about potty training and just basic general obedience stuff.
Yeah.
At that point, I was doing all positive reinforcement with everything with my own dog, and so anyway, we're chatting for about 2 hours, and we wrap everything up, and he pulls out $100 bill, gives me $100, and I look at it and I look at him, and like, there could be something in this.
It might be something to this.
Yeah, I'm like, at the time I was literally making like $12 an hour or something like that, and so to get paid $50 an hour, for 2 hours of work, it was like, whoa, this, there could be something in this. And so from there, I just kind of started looking into different dog training programs and trying to find different trainers around me that I could learn from. I enrolled in animal behavior college, which was, it was a decent experience. Got me certified that way, and then just started attending seminars and workshops, started taking on clients, and then eventually, this is all while I'm working full-time in retail, which that sucked.
Yeah.
Trying to raise a family and all of that. So anyway, eventually I got hired on to work with one of the largest training facilities here in Utah County. I was with them for about a year before I decided to move on, and then started up Canine Connection not long after that. So
wow, man.
Yeah, it's been a ride, man. Like we went from basically, like, I had to work full time. I moved into the back of my vet's office. That's kind of where I started my little facility.
Yeah.
We had four runs. I hired 2 friends of mine to train the dogs while I worked in my retail job. I worked for Office Depot, and so I would go from Office Depot back to this little facility, and within 3 months, I'd put in my 2 weeks notice and was able to quit and go full time, start taking on more dogs. And it's been about 18 months since we did that, and now I've got a facility here in Utah County where we can hold about 70 dogs. So the growth over the last 18 months, 2 years, has been insane.
Yeah.
I started out with 3 employees. I now have 18 employees.
Wow.
We've gone from running just strictly board and trains to doing daycare, day training, grooming, boarding, and then we've got a retail store as well. So it's been great. It's been a fun ride for the last 2 years.
So, dude, that's an awesome origin story. Just the fact of the matter that you started off just by offering up some free help, as you thought it was going to be, right? And then just getting paid $50 an hour, $100 to where it is today. And just for some context for everybody who's listening to this, Andrew is on track to do, or we're hoping to do, $1 million in his business this year. So this is a true entrepreneurship journey, going from, $50 an hour or $100 to train somebody's dog with them, to building a $1 million business. It's really, really amazing stuff, man. So let
Yeah.
me ask you this, like, all along the way, were you kind of like always planning, like once you figure out this is what you wanted to do, get out of retail, get into dog training, starting a business, did you know you always wanted to do boarding and training as well as private lessons, or where did you think this was going from the beginning?
Like from the beginning, I had no idea really. I mean, if initially it was just going to be kind of like a hobby and a side job type thing, and then the more it grew, the more I developed like my own skill set, the more friends I made in the industry, the more, the more I built my passion up for the training side of things. I mean, I've always had a thing for dogs. I've always had dogs. I've always been around them. Like my first job out of high school was as a bather at my aunt's grooming facility. So,
So it's in your blood.
It's kind of in my blood. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it's something I've always kind of had an interest in, but I never thought it would go much more than that. It wasn't until I heard about people actually taking dogs and boarding them and training them, that was kind of where I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like there's some money in there. And my wife was supportive. Unfortunately, we live in a city that has a 2-dog limit. Mm-hmm. And so doing board and trains out of my home wasn't an option because I already had 2 personal dogs of my own. The city wouldn't budge. They wouldn't let me take on extra client dogs. It was basically, you can do board and trains in your home. You just have to get rid of your own personal dogs to do it, which non-negotiable, exactly. Yeah. And so, so when my vet office kind of offered up their space, when I was a few years into my journey, that was kind of a no-brainer. It was such a great arrangement for us because we were able to start offering, those board and train programs, which, I mean, we were cheap as well. I mean, as
we'll get into pricing a little bit.
We'll get into pricing, yeah. But I mean, once that started, I mean, when we were able to start taking, 4 board and trains, which grew to 6 board and trains, which grew to 8 board and trains, I was able to get out of my retail job. That's kind of when things opened up and I kind of saw the big picture of, oh my gosh, okay, there's something in this. We, the more board and trains we take, the bigger this thing can become. And so we just kept going and going. And, I think the important thing to remember in all of this as well, we went from doing, 4 dogs to having a 70-dog facility in the middle of a pandemic as well. We've only been open in this facility since October of 2020.
Right.
And so, and in our first year of business, we hit $750,000 in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. So that just goes to show you, man, that like if you're dedicated to doing this, like you can make it happen even in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. So it's been huge, and I'm not gonna sit here and say it's been sunshine, roses, and butterflies for the whole time. It's been hard. It's been a challenge. I mean, if it'd been that easy, obviously I wouldn't have reached out to you and say, hey, I want to make this business $1 million company.
Right. But that's kind of, I think that in the day and age of social media and just seeing other people and what they're posting or whatever, it's very easy to get tricked into almost thinking that things aren't supposed to go wrong, right? And that everything is supposed to be going smoothly at all times. And we just don't see the struggles that other people are going through once they've achieved something like a $1 million business or $750,000 or even $500,000 or even making $100,000. Sometimes that can be a tough plateau to reach in a year. Oh, yeah. Right. And so the thing is, like, it's not about it's not supposed to be easy, because if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. It's that age-old saying.
Yep.
So dude, yeah, I mean, I just love the idea that you just kept relaying different opportunities into bigger and bigger things. So why don't you just do me a favor and walk me through exactly what that was like using the vet's office? Like you still had your retail job at that point, but you were taking board and trains and keeping them in the back of the vet's office.
Yep, pretty much.
How
Like I
much were
said,
you paying in rent there?
not much. Honestly, my vet was so easygoing. Like if I forgot to pay rent, he wouldn't even say anything. It was so the back space we had about, I want to say about 1,200 square feet,
Mhm.
and then we were renting out the 4 kennels.
Wow.
So he was charging us $1,200 for the whole thing,
Wow.
which wasn't, not too bad at all. At the time that was one board and train for me.
Right, exactly.
So that was pretty easy. I had the 4 kennels, so I was then taking on. Then I took on 2 trainers to work for me while I was at work, and so they would work with the dogs for me while I was doing my other job.
Yeah.
And I was paying them a commission. I think we were doing I think it was like a 30-70 split at the time.
Nice.
So they were taking home 30% of each board and train that they worked with. And then the other 70 was kind of going towards, the rent on that space, and then
Right.
supplies and everything else.
Right. So they would make $360. You would make the remainder of it. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's really smart, man. Like, especially for people that are thinking about doing board and trains, if maybe they can't accommodate them in their own home, but they have people they know that could take one here or 2 there, and they're trying to grow this business. That's a real option, and you're a testament of that. Like, just pay people
Yep.
well. You don't have to pay them per hour, pay them on the job. And if you're paying them 30% and you're making 70%, you can't lose money on it as long as you're getting paid up front.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So, and then we just kind of, got to the point where, my boss at Office Depot, he still remains one of my best friends. And I tried to quit on him so many times. He was like, just give me a couple more weeks, just give me a couple more weeks,
Yeah.
just got to get through this busy period, and then you can leave. So,
Right.
So I mean, I could have easily have left Office Depot comfortably, 2 or 3 months before I actually did.
Right.
But I felt like I owed it to him to kind of stick around. But
yeah, and that's karma, right? Like,
exactly.
you'll inevitably have somebody that you need them to stick around a little bit longer, and you would want somebody to do that for you. So
exactly. So I mean, I'm always of the belief that if you treat people well, it's just going to come back tenfold. So
yeah, and that's another thing that I find really amazing about you, man. It's like, one of the first things you said to me, you're an incredibly selfless person, and one of the first things you said to me is, I want to grow my business so that I can pay my employees what they deserve to be paid. It wasn't just about you being like, I want to make more money. It was like, no, I want to be able to grow a real, sustainable, like, healthy company culture here.
Absolutely. I mean, we pay competitively well, for the industry, for the area that we're in. I mean, and I've always been of the belief that you've got to give people a living wage. Right. It's hard, it's hard out there, with inflation and prices, and everything is just getting more and more expensive. And I don't want to see my employees struggling. And on top of that, I know that absolutely at any given time, any one of my employees could walk out of here and go start their own business and, make the same as what I'm making, if not more.
Right.
And I've got the very best team. Like right now, I could not ask for a better team. I get emotional when I talk about my team because I love them as much as I do, but like, and I do, I want to be able to pay my employees, my trainers deserve to be making, $60,000 a year plus, they deserve that. And I want that for them. And that's why I got in contact with you, because I've done well in the last 2 years by myself, but you can't, you know, at some point you've got to realize that you can't make it by yourself all the time. You know, there's going to be that hurdle that's just that little bit too high, and you just need a little extra boost to get over that. And that's why I reached out to you, because I felt like you were the guy that was the one to help me over that hurdle, and to help me get my team to where they deserve to be. You know, I want my starting wage for my kennel techs to be $15 an hour. You know, it seems like the country's going that way anyway, and I don't want it to be a struggle for me when that time comes. I don't want to have to, you know, price my clients out of the market at that point, because I have to raise my prices overnight to accommodate for when the country gets to a $15 an hour minimum wage. So, and then when it does get there, I want to be able to be like, okay, this is the minimum wage. I don't want to pay you minimum wage. I want to pay you $18 an hour or whatever it is at that time.
Couldn't agree more.
In a position to do that. So.
And I think that people wonder, like, how do you find good help? It's impossible to find good help, right? Ask yourself.
It's hard.
It is. And even when you do pay well, right, it's still hard to find people, because it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, everyone criticizes the boss. And if I was running the company, I'd do it this way. And then when you get to that position, you realize different things that you're like, we can't necessarily do that, right? Or we just don't have the money in the budget to afford that. But
absolutely.
If you're looking to hire people, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but if you're looking to hire people, just ask yourself the honest question of, like, would I do this job for this pay? And if the answer is no, and don't kid yourself, right? Like, honestly, think about that. Put yourself in that person's shoes. Take yourself back to when you were their age and you were getting started out. Would you actually want to do the job for that pay? And if you're like, then you should be looking to pay them. Because that's let's be honest here, like, that's the main motivator of people taking a job, right? The passion is there for dog trainers as well, right? People love working with animals, but they have to be able to pay their bills. So that's going to be the number one motivator.
Yep, absolutely. You know, and that's how it's always been for us. You know, we've got to make sure, you know, my responsibility isn't just for myself. You know, it's not just my mortgage I'm paying. It's, you know, like I said, I've got 18 employees now. And so, you know, that's 18 people's rents, that's 18 people's mortgages. That, you know, one of my employees, she just got back from maternity leave this week, and so that's the clothes on her baby's back that I have to provide. And you know,
it's responsibility.
It's responsibility. And as a business owner, as an employer, you've got a responsibility to your employees to pay them what they deserve, and to pay them, you know, what they're worth. You know, just like you've got, you know, if you're by yourself, you've got that responsibility to pay yourself what you're worth. But, you know, you've got to be able to sustain, you know, everybody that works for you. You know,
exactly.
If you want a good team, if you want the best team, you have to pay the best.
Exactly.
And so yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I think that this is actually really valuable for a lot of people that are looking to get somebody hired. How do you get your employees hired? Where do you look for them? How do they find you?
So my first employees were just kind of friends of mine, people within the dog training community. It's really important to have good, solid relationships within the dog training community. I started out as a positive reinforcement trainer. I kind of went balanced and then came back positive, and now I'm kind of balanced again.
Somewhere in between.
somewhere in between, you know, with what I'm doing. But I've got friends on both sides of the fence. And I think that's important. You have to have good, solid relationships. You have to have an open mind. You can't be willing to criticize and to bash and attack the trainers in your community, because you know, there's always going to be a time at some point where you need that relationship, you know. So I actually found my first employees through a dog trainer mentorship program that a friend of mine was doing at the time. And I brought them in to come work with me, and they were phenomenal. Then I brought in my third employee from that same program. And then from there, it was you know, it was a friend of my first trainers came in. Yeah, a friend. It was more like his girlfriend, but
more than
a
friend.
More than a friend. So then I started advertising through Facebook. I've done all of my hiring through Facebook. Mm-hmm. You know, I've never used like Indeed or any of those other really big
monster stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any of those. I've always hired through Facebook. I've always asked questions on the application to kind of get a feel for the people. You know, I don't care about experience. I've never worried about that because experience can be taught. I'm always looking for people that can kind of think outside the box, that can problem solve. Like one of the questions I always ask on my application is, if you were the first person to come into work and the building was full of penguins, what would you do? Because I'm not looking for people who are going to be like, oh, I'm going to call the manager.
Yeah,
I don't want to be bothered with that crap. You know, I want, you know, my favorite answer was, I'm going to run down to the grocery store, get as much fish as I can, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to start training the penguins. It's like, heck yeah, this is the type of person that I want. You know?
That's amazing.
And then the other one I always ask is, if you could compare yourself to any object, what would it be and why? You know, the employee, my new employee that I just hired yesterday, her response was brilliant. She's like, I'd be a clock because I never stop.
Oh, that is great.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. I love that response.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for like really creative people that can kind of think outside the box and kind of figure stuff out, because that's what I want. You know, I don't want people that are going to come to me with every single problem.
Agreed.
You know, as a business owner, I want to be able to shut off my phone, or go on vacation, or take a weekend off and not worry about how many times my phone's going to ring. You know,
right? Yeah, and when you have people that can kind of think outside of the box too, then they can come to you with ideas as well, of like ways to optimize things in the business.
Absolutely. I mean, we do that all the time. You know, and a lot of the time it comes down to money. You know, you've got to have the money there to solve the problem, and I explained that. But you know, the majority of the things that we've implemented over the last 18 months, they're not my ideas. They've come from my head trainer. They've come from my general manager. They've come from, you know, my kennel techs, you know, my supervisors, you know. So yeah. And the other thing is, you can't have an ego. You know, you can't be like, oh, I know better than all my employees, because, you know, I don't. You know, I'm not the one that's, you know, cleaning 70 kennels every day. Exactly. You know, yes, I've been there, I've done that, but you know, I've got other things I've got to do. And so when they come to me and say, hey, the process that we've got in place isn't working, is it okay if we try it this way? Absolutely. Whatever you think is going to work best for you, do it. Let's put it in place. Let's try it and see what happens, because you know, they're the ones that are putting in the grunt work. And it just makes for a much better work environment if they feel heard and if they feel validated, and if they feel like they are they're going to be listened to, and that action is going to be taken based off of their concerns and their ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it also validates them on a different level. It's not just all, you know, like I said before, people are largely motivated by pay, but if they feel like their opinions are respected within the company and they are a contributing member to this like thing greater than themselves, like the company, right? They're gonna want to continue to do better and better, because now they've set the expectation for themselves that they are more than just like an hourly worker who clocks in and 5 o'clock, time for me to leave, right? They're like invested in the business, and now you see that, and that the expectations are kind of raised for everybody as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and that's huge for people. I think, you know, everyone just kind of wants, this is Macy.
It's Macy.
Yeah. People, they want to be validated, they want to be heard, and they want to be valued, you know. Totally. And definitely.
Cool, man. Yeah. So I know we just went off there. I had a feeling this was going to happen with you and I, when it
How it
comes
always
to,
goes.
yeah, yeah. But so we covered employees. So back to kind of your journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I remember the first conversation that you and I had. I had posted a client success interview, and you were like, "Hey, 20K in a month is great, but I want to do 20K in a week." And I
Yeah.
remember having that conversation with you and being like, okay, cool. Like it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
And then we got on our first phone call and I really, really started learning kind of who you were as a person, I felt like. And something that I found really, really cool is you just have this attitude, and you seems like you've always had this since the beginning, that like I'm going to figure it out. And if I don't have the money, then I'm just going to study it myself and do it my best until I have the money to invest in making it even better. And that's kind of what you did with, so we've been running Google ads together, right? That's like
Yeah.
one of the things we've been doing together. And prior to us working together, you were running them yourself and you were getting some success, right? So why don't you speak
Yeah.
on that a little bit?
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very good at taking little tidbits of information and then kind of running with it
Yeah.
and just kind of figuring things out for myself. And that's just kind of how I've always been. Um, I don't have a degree in business or marketing or anything like that. It's all just kind of been trial and error,
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time, experimenting with Facebook ads, with Google ads. I'd had a very, very generic Google ad running for a long time, and it would bring me in some good quality clients.
Right.
Um, and then it would kind of dry up, and I was like, okay, we need to make a change, and so I'd make a change,
Mhm.
but it wasn't very targeted. It was just a very generic ad, and it was basically just something along the lines of um, affordable board and trains Orem, Utah. It
Right.
was, it was very, very generic.
Right.
And then a click to my website,
Right.
where I would then have all my prices, all my packages, all my programs, and
Just push them to fill out a
just
form, or
kind
just
I,
place a phone call.
I didn't even push them to that. It was just go to my website, and then if you're still interested, then call me.
Right.
It was, and it worked to a degree.
Right.
Obviously you don't build a $750,000 business, um, without that working.
Right.
And I realized that, in order to make money, I had to spend money,
Yep.
and that's kind of just how it is. So I started out with a budget of $500 a month, which then as things started coming in, it kind of grew to $1,000 a month, which
Yep.
I think that's about where we're at now.
Yep.
So it's a lot, but the way that I look at it is, that $1,000 a month right now is basically a fourth of one of my board and trains.
Exactly.
So it's if that $1,000 a month brings me in 3 board and trains, I'm well ahead of myself.
So
and,
far,
and
the
it's and it's
ROI is ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and even stuff like your website though, like you built that entirely yourself. And what I'm kind of getting at here is I think there's a lot of people out there that are waiting to start their business because they feel like, oh, I can't afford to have a website, or I can't afford to pay someone to market for me. I can't afford to do whatever. But there's so many different things that are at your disposal. Like when it came to building your website, you signed up through GoDaddy, right?
yep.
And they had a template pretty much,
Yep.
right? And you just like swapped in your information and made it look nice, made the changes you wanted to make to that template, and then you have a great website and you can start marketing that to people.
Yeah, GoDaddy's been great for me,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to sit here and say that GoDaddy's the best, because I'm sure there's a dozen other companies out there that do just as good of a job. But
Right.
GoDaddy was something that I started playing around with, probably 10 years ago, with other projects that I was looking into at the time.
Yeah.
So I've always been comfortable with GoDaddy, and and they've kind of grown and evolved over the years as well, as any good business should. And you know, they make it very easy. They do a lot of your SEO for you. You just got to put in the keywords that they recommend, and that really helps to get you further up, you know, the Google ladder. You know, so
it's awesome, man. I just that's something that's really important to me, is like you're describing with your employees, like you want them to be innovative and you want them to do problem solve. Like that is the essence of being an entrepreneur and a business owner, right? If you're a business owner and you don't have the money to pay somebody to build you a website, well, you need to have a website in 2022. So just figure it out. Like go and there's so many different options at your disposal. Like we don't need a $10,000 WordPress optimized website. Go to GoDaddy or Squarespace or Wix. It's super cheap.
Yeah. My website literally costs me like $300 a year.
Yeah.
You know, and you know that, I mean, even if you're a brand new dog trainer and, you know, you're only making, you know, $25,000 a year, $300 a year for your website is nothing. You know, it's really easy. It's really user friendly. You know, you can add so many different things, you know. You can add pictures and videos. You can add, you know, you can do a direct link to your Google My Business page. You can do direct links to your Facebook page, to your Twitter, to your Instagram. I'm sure TikTok will be on there pretty soon.
Exactly.
The way that's going and growing. So
I love it, man. So dude, why don't you talk about this a little bit, if you don't mind? So you were doing Google Ads yourself. I got into that Google Ads account. We did the best we could because there's a little bit of a learning phase that comes with launching any new account, right? But so I was able to pull some data out of your account that we, you know, when you were running before we started working together. And what we found was most of your traffic was just for your main key, your company's keywords, right? So Canine Connection, right? And then there was a lot of other stuff in there too, like dog grooming or dog boarding and stuff like that. And what we really wanted to focus on is the strategy to be really all about people contacting you and your budget going all into getting new dog training clients, right? So how has it been going since we've kind of made the switch to this new account?
Well, we started back in December, right at the very beginning of December, you know, which was probably the worst time to start because everybody is at that point not thinking about their dog at all. They're thinking more about Christmas. They're thinking about, you know,
traveling,
the holidays coming up, traveling, you know, they're not throwing money at dog training at all. You know, so for the first few weeks, things were slow for us because we didn't have the people searching for the services that we were offering other than dog boarding. But I mean, at that point we were already pretty much full because, you know, if you don't book your dog boarding 2-3 months in advance, you're not getting in anywhere. So it wasn't until December 26th was when our first lead came in. You know, we've been working almost a month. We were kind of like sweating a little bit. We're like, you know, I promise I'm working on this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why the leads aren't coming in, but you know, it was just the bad timing on my part for getting in contact with you when I did. But
it's just the timing. But you also said too that it was worth doing at that point too, because then you didn't have to worry about, you know, it was up and ready to go for when the search volume came back.
Exactly. And that was important to me because I knew all these people were going to be getting puppies. I knew all these people were going to need help at some point. And we definitely wanted to have a strategy in place for when that wave hit, because, you know, there's nothing worse than being underprepared. You know,
exactly.
You've got to be prepared for those busy times, and otherwise you're just going to miss out on a whole lot of money. And you know, it doesn't matter if you're a trainer by yourself or if you're in a facility. You know, money is king, and so you've got to have a strategy in place to capitalize on those busy periods. You know, but yeah, just December 26th, we got our first lead, and converted that one into a board and train to start January.
Right.
And then, December 27th, we get like 3 more leads in, converted literally all 3 of those into board and trains. Like our success rate with these leads was amazing. We even had, so we offer financing, and we had one client apply for financing and they got denied. And then, I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's one lost lead because of finances, whatever. Well, then they contact us, a few days later, and they're like, so we've decided to sacrifice some of our honeymoon money and put it towards training. And then they dropped $5,000 on a training program that they decided they wanted to do, because they decided investing in their dog was more valuable to them than, flying down to Mexico for an all expenses paid
honeymoon.
Yeah. So yeah. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, we ended up going from December, which was our worst month ever, that we've had, into January, which in our first week in January, we had our most lucrative, most profitable week that we've had in in the year and 3 months that we've been in this building.
Wow.
I think we ended up that week at like 60. No, yeah, it was close. It was pretty close to like $60,000 that week.
60K in that week.
In that week.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was huge. It was a huge week for us. By far the best week that we've had.
Yeah.
I told you, I want to be able to do 20,000 a week, and we do that the first week of January. It was huge. It was amazing. And
that's fantastic.
And yeah, I mean, things slow down. Everything kind of comes in waves, and
exactly.
But it's been consistent and it's been steady since then. We kind of started now doing, about, I think we're doing about $18,000 a week right now, which
we're right there.
The
thing is,
so close.
The thing that's really awesome about it too is, when that you can put in, say, in your case, $1,000 into advertising spend in a month, and it brings you, say, an extra $10,000, right? You get a 10x return on it. Then okay, what happens if I want to get that one extra board and train? That just means I need to up my budget by an extra $200 maybe, right? And you can just track back. You can just backtrack and figure out, okay, this is my goal revenue. This is that's where I want to get to. How many leads do I need to get to that? Here's my cost per lead, and this is how much I need to put in order to get that amount of leads. So yeah, man, you're right there at your goal of almost 20K a week. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we're 2 months in. I mean, I think it was December 6th was when I signed on with you.
Yep.
Here we are, February 2nd, and and we're on goal. We're right on target to do my goal, which I posted in your group when you said, "What are your goals this year?"
Yeah,
$1 million. That's exactly where I want to be. I want to be a 7-figure income company.
Yeah, we're gonna hit that, man. I mean, it's really amazing that. When you just take calculated risks and you invest in something, you can just make it happen. And I think that you really are a testament to that. So when it comes to like just specific numbers of board and trains, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I remember the last time we spoke, you said something like you had filled like 10 spots that week or something. 16 spots. Yeah. And
16 board and trains in 1 week.
Okay. And you feel like specifically from like, because we track the leads in the spreadsheet, right? And you can see like a fair amount of those have been coming from the actual Google ads themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So let me ask you this. I think sales is another big part of this, right? That a lot of people don't understand. It's, you can get all the leads in the world, but if they're not closing, it doesn't matter, right? So why don't you walk me through, if you don't mind, just your sales process a little bit, and how you kind of nurture your leads.
So my sales process, I've got a background in sales. I worked retail, before retail, I was selling cars. I've always had kind of a sales background. So that's something I've always been comfortable doing. And I get it. Not a lot of people, or not every person, is comfortable selling things.
Yeah.
That's something you've got to get good at in this industry.
Yeah.
Because if you can't sell, then you're going to have a really hard time bringing in new people.
Agreed.
My process, and you say this all the time, is you have 75% of people are going to buy from someone they like, know, and trust, and that is something that I've clung on to since my days selling cars.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something that is true for me. I like to think of myself as a likable person. And I'm straight with people. I'm honest with people. I don't necessarily try and sell people on my biggest programs if I don't feel like they need it. I sit down with my people. I have a conversation with them. I try and find out what their hot topics are. Once I find out what their hot topic is, then I can look at my programs and walk through each program with them and help them find the program that is best for them. Yeah. If I could sell my $5,000 board and train to every single client, that would be amazing.
Right.
It wouldn't be ethical for me to do that. I sell my group classes for $45 a month. And I probably sell more people on $45 a month than I do my board and trains because that's what people need. I don't believe in hard selling. I like to give a lot of choice and a lot of options to my clients, and then let them choose for themselves based off of my recommendation.
Right.
I will say, yeah, you could go this route. You could do the board and train if that's something that you really want to do. But I think your dog would be just as good if we did private training, or if we did day training, or if we did group classes.
Right.
A lot of people are going to be honest. They're like, you know what? I think you're absolutely right, but I don't think I'm dedicated enough to put in the work through private training. How about I have you train my dog for me, and then we'll continue through the group classes and through the follow-up training sessions.
Right.
You've got to build value. You've got to build value in your programs.
Right.
That's something that I feel like I'm really good at doing. I include unlimited follow-up training sessions and group classes for life in all of my board and train programs.
Yeah.
I make it a no-brainer for people who are not dedicated enough to their dogs to train them.
Right. Yeah. There's a saying, it's like an offer so good that people would feel stupid saying no to it.
Exactly. I live between two universities. I've got to have packages and programs that cater to those on a really tight budget.
Yeah.
But then we also have really affluent areas around us for where people can afford those more lucrative programs.
Yeah.
And so you've got to know your demographic. You've got to know your area. You've got to know who you are selling to.
Right.
And like I said, my process is I get them on the phone. And I do a lot of my consultations over the phone. If I can get them to come in and sit down with them, that's ideal for sure. Yeah. But again, like I said, I'm working with students. I'm working with people who have long, busy days. And so trying to find that time for them to come in is often difficult. Yeah. So I've gotten really good at selling over the phone. Good. For me, but
that's because just to put it in context for everybody, like Andrew had previously sharpened his teeth for years doing sales, years, right?
Years.
So you can kind of get away with doing it over a phone call. And you, like you said, like there's still something that you can't replace when you do that in-person consult, right? And so if I always say this to everybody, if you can't sell to somebody face to face with their dog right there and their dog, misbehaving right there, you're going to have a very, very hard time selling to people over the phone.
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that I have 100% success rate on the phone. Right. I don't.
Right.
But I would say 75% of my phone consultations are going to result in a sale of some sort.
Right. Yeah.
But put the person in front of me, give me a sit down conversation, and I'm going from 75% to 95%.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and what you're describing too is like authenticity with your leads and the clients, right? People love, I always say this, like this is something that just always comes full circle for me and keeps coming back to me. Treat people as you would want to be treated. If you were to go in and take any business and they were trying to force the most expensive program down your throat just because that's best for their bottom line and their business, you're going to be aware of that and be like, I don't want to work with this company. But if you're working with the owner of the business and he's saying to you, hey, listen, I understand money might be tight. Here's what we can do. Here's a payment program, or here's a financing program, or you know what, a lot of if you can't afford that, a lot of our clients get great results. Why don't you start here? See if you like this, and if not, we can always reevaluate.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another big mistake that people make is they shop their own pocket. Oh, well, I couldn't afford this, so therefore you probably couldn't afford this. You can't do that. Like I said, my Bella, my little Rottweiler that I've got in right now, she's doing my most expensive program. Yeah. These are two people that basically went out and made it happen by sacrificing their honeymoon so they could get their dog trained.
Exactly.
If you put the value into your programs and you sell the value of your programs to every person that walks through the door, regardless of how well dressed they are, regardless of what car they pull up in, regardless of, how they smell, it doesn't matter, like
I totally agree.
People are going to buy into your philosophy. They're going to buy into the value of the program. They're going to buy into the value of the program. So my wife is like pulling faces at me through my window. People are going to buy into your programs, based on your passion, based on the value, based on your enthusiasm. Yeah. Based on your personality. Mm-hmm. Like I said, 75% of people are going to buy from someone they like, know, and trust.
Yep.
You've got to be that person that they like by being genuine, by being honest, by being kind.
Spending time with them, like helping them actually
get to know them. Let them get to know you. Mm-hmm. Find common topics. Was it Luca you were talking to the other day?
Oh, Lucas, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to that whole conversation and I couldn't agree more with the things that you guys said. You have to, when I sit down with people, I don't talk about their dog probably for the first 10 minutes of a consultation because I'm getting to know the person. I'm trying to find out their background, where are they from, where they've traveled to, what kind of music do you like, what was the last concert you went to, what was,
Exactly. Well, it's so funny you say that, man, because I'm a huge fan of that as well. Like, I'm going to talk to people. Like, when you and I first started talking, right? I was like, I can commiserate with this guy over being a New York Giants fan, right? Like, I saw you were a New York Giants fan. I was like, we're going to spend some time talking about that, because it just develops a way deeper bond than just like, hey, you got to pay me a couple $1,000s to get your dog trained. But something that you were saying before too, which is, I think this is so easily overlooked. Like, are you delivering enough value to this person? That's the exchange, value for their money. And if you keep getting no's and no's and no's, you need to take a long, hard look at that and be like, are my programs not valuable enough? Am I not really solving enough of a problem here?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be able to solve the people's problems. And, and that goes on to another thing. If you can't solve that person's problem, find someone who can. You know, there is so much to be said for referring out. You know,
Yeah.
it builds so much trust, you know, because first of all, if I refer out to, like, for example, I don't do service dog training. And so I've got one of the best service dog trainers in the country in my backyard, essentially. So the number of clients I refer to her, you know, it builds that trust then between me and our now shared client.
Exactly.
You know, I've got that dog coming back to me for daycare. I've got that dog coming back to me for group classes that this other trainer doesn't offer. I've got that client coming back to me for retail.
Yeah.
You know, I've got that client coming to me for grooming because I built the relationship in the first place. I sent them to somebody that could solve their problem, but they're still spending money with me because they trust me. They know that I'm going to do what is right for them.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's huge. Don't get, you know, especially if you're a newer trainer, don't think, you know, don't get an attitude, don't get cocky and arrogant and think that you can solve every dog's problems. If you can't do it, don't do it. Refer it out, build the trust, build the rapport, because that client will come back to you with something else later on, and you're going to make money on that client because they trust you.
It's so true, man. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, you scratch their back, they scratch yours. You know, like you refer out to the service dog trainer, like they may not want to take on just like a basic obedience client or something like that. They may feel like, you know, you're a better fit for Andrew. Or like you said, like what is the long-term value of that customer too, right? Grooming for you. It's also boarding. It's all of that. Maybe they want to just opt into your group classes for like whatever it may be. So yeah, man, it's key to build. This comes back to what you're saying before, build relationships, don't burn bridges. I think that there's a lot of people that have the mindset of like, if I give somebody else a job that's taking money out of my pocket, and at the end of the day, if you can't do a good job with it, you're not going to sign that person on anyway. Right. So build a relationship, and you just never know where that's going to take you. Like you're a perfect example of this, of like, you just signed on a massive contract, right? With like a local vendor for all of their obedience clients, right?
Yeah. So, and I'm just going to state, I don't necessarily agree with their business practices, but we don't even
need to go into who they are.
We don't need to go into that. But at the same time, I now have a contract with a puppy store, because they understood that there was something missing in what they were selling, and that was the training aspect for these puppies that they're selling. It just so happened to be an old friend of mine who is now their general manager, who reached out to me and said, look, we're looking for someone to send these puppies to for training once we sell them. Is it okay if we sell them to you? Mm-hmm. And now through that relationship, I have basically exclusive recommendations for puppy training, for retail, for grooming, for boarding, for daycare. You know, and you know, it might not be, you know, the way that I would necessarily want the puppies to be going into the owners' lives, but at the same time, every dog deserves a chance. Every dog deserves to have good training, and so I'm more than willing to help those clients out of theirs. Because it's only going to benefit the dogs in the long run.
Exactly. So. Yeah, like again, we're not going to go into who they are or what they do or anything like that, but more so like, to your point, like this already exists. These dogs are out there. They need the best opportunity possible to have the best life possible.
That business isn't going anywhere.
Right, you know? Exactly. So all you're doing is just, you know, making the situation that much better. So, dude, I want to talk about a little bit, and I don't want to take up your whole day here because I know that you could chat forever, but let's talk about pricing a little bit. That was something that I was pushing you to do from the beginning, was increase prices, right? And because you offer so much value and you have such great programs, but I think that you I know you were, and you know too, that you were undervaluing your services. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Absolutely. That it was definitely a sticking point, and it was definitely something I knew I needed to do, was to raise my prices, because, you know, I was charging literally $500 a week for board and train,
Mhm.
which, you know, wasn't a lot. Especially when you consider we're doing unlimited follow-up training sessions and unlimited group classes for life, with all of our board and train programs. And so, yeah, you know, my worry was that, first of all, that we didn't have the name recognition or the brand recognition to be able to charge top dollar pricing, and to be more expensive than, you know, the other companies that had been around a lot longer than us. You know, what you helped me realize was, you know, they were holding themselves back, and in turn that was holding me back because I was trying to be competitive with them rather than focusing on the value, the added value that I offer.
Right.
And I mean, you know, I've upped my prices by $250 a week, so I'm now at $750 a week, which, in your opinion, is still really low.
We're still going to go up. Yeah,
we're still working on pushing those prices up.
Yeah,
and it was terrifying for me. I was legitimately terrified that I was going to
stop selling,
a huge dip in sales, but I trusted the process. I trusted everything that you were saying. I told you that, you know, when I bought into your program, that I was going to be all in, and I was going to commit to doing whatever it took. And you was like, great, you need to raise your prices. I was like, cool, I'll raise them like $100. And you're like, no, no, you're gonna go from $500 to $750 a week.
Yeah.
And then once we get there, we're gonna raise them another $250 in a few months' time. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, but dude, I appreciate the commitment and like you in the belief in you know, working with me and really in yourself, because at the end of the day, you just hit the nail on the head. Don't focus too much attention, for anybody out there, right, on who's like looking what everybody else is doing. It's irrelevant, right? Because you don't want to be by far and away the most expensive in the market. You definitely don't want to be the cheapest, because competing on price is a losing proposition. There's always going to be somebody cheaper out there than you, and you know, who's going to do it for less money, and you know, you're just going to burn yourself to the ground trying to be the cheapest. But focus. It all comes back to value, like the value that are in your programs, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like the standard becoming $1,000 a week for people that are offering, you know, just not even that great of board and trains, right? So but you saw that you were able to change that, right? Increase the prices by 50% essentially, right? And you didn't see a dip, right?
No, I didn't see a dip. I saw a growth.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that was huge. You know, I mean, we're sitting right now at 16 board and train dogs, and you know, and like I said, one of them, well, the most lucrative week that we've ever had, and one of the most lucrative months we've ever had. So it's been awesome.
Cool, man.
I mean, like I say, you definitely know what you're talking about, which I really which I really value, you know, and it is a trust thing. I do trust that what you're saying is going to get me the results, and you know, and I'm definitely very appreciative of that, because like I said, as a team, we're gonna get to that $1 million mark. We're gonna get our trainers to where they need to be, and it's
we're just getting started. Like I know with you that this is $1 million.
Exactly.
$1 million is not is not the final destination for this.
Yeah.
Something that I also think is really important too when it comes to sales and raising prices is it gives you a more serious clientele too. Like people have more skin in the game. They're more invested in your programs. And I think you just need to, for anyone out there who's thinking about raising their prices, you know, one thing that cures all can just be more opportunity, more leads, right? So I'm not saying that like if you have a horrible sales process, like there's no amount of leads that's going to fix that. But at the end of the day, you know, I think a lot of people have the fear of raising their prices because they have a lack of opportunity, and they feel like I only get like 3 leads a month or 5 leads a month. If I don't close all these people, then I can't put food on the table. But if you
Right.
can have enough leads where you're like, hey, if this person says no, I'm on to the next one.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at my my lead tracker in front of me right here. I mean, we've been working together for just under 2 months. I've got 52 leads in here right now.
Yeah.
Some of them are brand new. I've still got to follow up with and talk to, but that's 52 leads that I probably wouldn't have gotten before.
Right. Exactly.
It's a numbers game.
Exactly.
Everything's a numbers game. The more people you can talk to, the more people you can sell.
It's all about starting conversations, right? More people, like you said, the more sales calls you do, the luckier you get.
Yeah. And there's going to be times that you definitely have those conversations, and you're going to be like, you know what, you're going to get off the phone and you're like, that was the worst, biggest fuck up conversation that I've ever had.
I know.
And I've had those, and you're just like, I wouldn't have bought from me. There's no way. And then you're gonna eventually something's gonna click, and you're just gonna be like, oh my gosh, I just had the best conversation.
Yeah.
I just, I could have sold ice to an Eskimo today. That's how much I was on fire today.
I know.
And then you get that confidence, you get that you get that momentum going, and then it's just like boom, 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 and next thing you know, you've sold 10 clients in a row, and you're just like, what am I going to do? Now I've got more dogs than I know how to deal with. How am I gonna work with all these dogs? And it's amazing.
I know another problem pops up, right? It goes from like, I don't have enough work to now I have too much work.
Right. And I mean, and that's where we're getting, I'm at a process right now where I'm trying to train up my next group of trainers. So in preparation for, tax season, March, April, May, which is notoriously our busiest season, right through until August, because I know I'm gonna have all of these inquiries coming in. I'm gonna have all of these dogs coming in. Right now, we're doing 16 board and trains. I've got 2 assistant trainers, which are almost ready to promote to full trainers, which means I can take 8 more dogs on at a time, because I only have my trainers work with 4 dogs at any given time. I work my 4 dogs. It's awesome. We have a great process going. But I mean,
things are going well. Things are going very well. Yeah. So I guess we're going to wrap it up in here in a minute, but I just wanted to, the last question I always like to ask to everybody I work with is, any advice that you would give to somebody who is, right now where you were a few years ago when you were first getting started? Like, what would be your recommendation?
For me, it would be find whatever it is that works for you. Like I said, I had the restriction of the city. They wouldn't let me do board and trains in my home. So I went out and found a place where I could do board and trains. Mm-hmm. Strike a deal with your vet offices. Go work in your local pet stores. Whatever you can do to make it work, make it work.
Yeah.
That's the advice that I give people, because you have to find a way. There's a workaround. I know a lot of the states outside of Utah's not a very dog friendly state, unfortunately, but a lot of the states around us, they really are. And you go down into Arizona, and you've got plenty of trainers down there, and they're doing 5-6 board and trains out of their home. If that works for you, great. If not, go out, find somebody with some space that you can use. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be 6,000 square feet. Like I said, my building that I was using was 1,200 square feet. We rented 4 kennels, which grew into 6 kennels, which grew into 8 kennels, which grew into crates all around the side walls, which which eventually we were able to move into my 6,000 square foot building. So you have to just find what works for you and run with it. Learn your sales process. Get good at sales. make yourself approachable, make yourself likable, relate to people. You have to be able to relate to people. You know, your clients should become your friends over time. I've got clients that have literally followed me for the last 6 years. I'm getting on to training, the next dog that they've got, after their dog passed away. I've actually got one client now that has their kid, who just got a dog, and now I'm working with the kid's dog.
That's unbelievable. Generational dog training.
Generational,
Yeah.
Build those lasting relationships. Don't ever think that, you're done with your clients when you're done with your clients.
Yeah.
I've got one client who I actually worked with her dad, I worked with her, and now I'm working with her kid.
That's unbelievable.
Granted, he was, he's a much older gentleman, and then she's kind of in her 40s or 50s, and then her kid is now in his 20s, and they just got a puppy. They're coming in for a board and train later this month. So the relationships that you make, they're huge. It's
I agree.
You go into if you have a good relationship, you create friendships with these people. People buy from who they like, know, and trust, and you've got to be the person that they like, they know, and they trust.
Right. Exactly.
Otherwise, your clients are going to go, and that's it. They'll get their next dog and they'll move on to somebody else.
They'll find somebody else. Yeah. And what you're describing is like something that this can't be taught, right? There's no amount of you need to legitimately feel this way. And if you don't feel this way, you need to reevaluate your relationship with your customers and figure out why exactly it is that you don't feel this way about them. Because even for me, you and I have a scheduled call every Wednesday at 11 a.m. my time, right?
Yep. I
look forward to it, man. I like talking to you. I like talking business. I like watching you grow, and we joke around. We have fun. So I love what I do with all my clients. I know you feel the same way. And at the end of the day, it's a dog training business, but everything is a people business. And if you're selling to a person, you're not selling to a dog. So go out there and make the relationship with the human, the person, and then the rest, the dog training will follow.
Absolutely. And don't be scared to learn from people, even if it's not a style that you necessarily adhere to. Be open-minded. Learn from, if you're an e-collar trainer, go learn from the positive reinforcement trainer down the street.
Yeah.
If you're, and vice versa. There's value in all of that. Build those relationships. I have a dog trainer education program for people in my area. I have my shadow program so people can come and learn from me. Learn how to build a business. Learn how to, how to sell. Learn how to train dogs. I've developed my own style of e-collar training that is very positive reinforcement based, and I want people to learn that. And so I have those options for people to come learn those things from me, because I want to build those relationships, and I want people to then refer people to me. But I also know that at some point I'm going to have more dogs than I can handle, and I want to have someone that I like, know, and trust, that I can I'm full right now.
Yeah.
But go work with Sarah Baker down the road, because she's a phenomenal trainer.
Yeah. So, shout out to Sarah Baker.
Shout out to Sarah Baker. We all love her. Exactly. So, and then it goes both ways,
Yeah.
So
awesome, man.
So yeah.
I love it, dude. I love your mentality, your just overall approach to this stuff. And it shows. I mean, that's what happens when you care about your clients. You put yourself in a position to build a $1 million business. So, dude, I'm super excited just to be here for the ride, be a part of the team. I can see that, the trajectory of this already going to the moon. So it's really cool, man. And I appreciate you hopping on the call today. We'll have to do another check-in, maybe sometime in the next couple of months. This was just an overall, bird's eye view of your business and how you run things and your experience, working with me. But, I really like taking specific topics and even just going, right into just specifically talking about sales. So maybe in the future we could definitely set up another time to do something like that.
Definitely, I'd love that. It's a lot of fun. I love working with you. You're amazing. You do great things, and I definitely really appreciate everything that you've done for me over the last 2 months, man. It's
thanks for the
like
opportunity, man.
I enjoy these conversations. I enjoy getting on shooting shit with you and talking about the Giants and the hell that it is being a Giants fan.
exactly, dude. It's only getting worse.
It's awesome.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, we'll link up again soon, and I appreciate you getting on the call today. Okay.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Talk to you, bud.